think one of the best you'll ever see in Formula One.
Hold on, did you know Red Bull secretly showed up at Silverstone with a car that looks completely different from what we saw in the first 3 races? And that is just the beginning, because today we are uncovering the full picture of what is really going on with Max Verstappen right now. The fights, the loyalty, the rumors, and none of it is what the media is making it sound like. Let's break it down. But before, if you want more updates and news on Max, then hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns. The Silverstone Secret. So Red Bull quietly showed up at Silverstone for a filming day, and guys, the car that came out of that garage was not the same RB22 we saw in the first 3 races. Spy shots leaked out, and honestly, the changes are pretty significant. The side pods have a completely new shape. Now there's this sharp kink halfway through, where before it was just one smooth line. The rear wing also has a different pivot point, meaning the way it moves and generates downforce has changed. Even the front wing end plates got updated. This isn't a tiny little tweak. Red Bull basically came to Silverstone with a different philosophy on how this car should work aerodynamically. And here's what makes this even more interesting. Team principal Laurent Mekies has already hinted that when Miami comes around, the car could look radically different from what we've seen so far. So Silverstone was basically Red Bull quietly telling the world, we are not done, we are rebuilding, and Max is at the center of all of it. This is a team that is working overtime for their driver, not against him. What Norris actually said. Okay, so now let's talk about what Lando Norris said, because this is where it gets really interesting, and a lot of people clipped it out of context. Earlier in the season, Norris made that cheeky comment saying Max can retire if he wants. Everyone ran with it like there was some big drama between them. But then Norris went on Sky Sports and basically said something completely different. He said he thinks Max will stay in Formula One longer than people are saying, and his reason was actually pretty simple. He said Max himself told everyone he wants to win a 5th world championship, so clearly he is not going anywhere. And then Norris admitted something that a lot of people missed. He said losing Max would be a shame for the sport. Coming from your closest rival on the grid, that is actually a massive statement. Norris isn't just being polite here. He genuinely understands what Max brings to Formula One. And let's not forget, Norris also admitted later that he actually agrees with Max's frustrations about the 2026 cars. He said they are certainly not the purest form of racing. So the whole Norris versus Max drama the media created, it was never real. Max versus FIA. Now this one is really important because I think most people are reading this situation completely wrong. Max has been very vocal about the 2026 rules, and people keep framing it like he is throwing a tantrum because he is struggling. That is not what is happening at all. Max's problem is something much deeper. He literally said, and I want you to hear this clearly, the problem is simply that you can tweak these regulations a bit, but fundamentally something is wrong. He is not angry because he is losing laps. He is angry because the racing itself doesn't feel like racing anymore. Drivers in 2026 are lifting and coasting halfway down straights just to manage battery energy. Max called it anti-racing, and honestly, he is not wrong. He even said something really human about it. He said he wants to live his life and doesn't want to spend years just managing switches in a car. That is not a guy who hates Formula One. That is a guy who loves pure racing so much that a watered-down version of it genuinely hurts him. He is fighting the FIA not because he is losing, he is fighting because nobody else has the guts to say what every driver is thinking privately. Max is just the one with the voice loud enough to make the sport actually listen. And guess what? The FIA held 3 separate meetings and announced rule changes for Miami. Max fought, and the sport responded. The Ferrari rumors. Alright, so let's address the Ferrari noise, because it has been everywhere lately. Reports came out saying Ferrari is monitoring Max's situation and could pair him with Leclerc long-term. And on the surface, it sounds exciting, right? But let's actually look at what the real picture is. Max and his father Jos have always been skeptical about Ferrari. Not recently, always. The concern has always been whether Ferrari can actually build a championship-winning environment consistently. They haven't won a driver's title since 2007. That is a long drought, and the Verstappens know it. Max himself has said there are no active discussions because Ferrari already has Leclerc and Hamilton under contract. He acknowledged there are chances in life for any kind of decision, but that is not a man planning a move. That is just a man being honest about the future being open. The Ferrari story is paddock gossip dressed up as breaking news. The loyalty angle. Here is the thing that people keep forgetting in all this noise. Max Verstappen has been at Red Bull since 2016. Every single championship, every record, every iconic moment, it all happened in that Red Bull garage. That bond doesn't just disappear because of one difficult regulation cycle. At the Hungarian Grand Prix last year, Max himself stood in front of the media and said, "I think it's time to stop all the rumors. For me, it was always quite clear that I was staying." He was already deep in discussions with the team about 2026 plans. That is not the behavior of someone with one foot out the door. Red Bull's own leadership also made it clear they have invested massively in their own engine project, and Max sees that. The team has been rebuilt around him. A new team principal in Laurent Mekies has brought fresh energy, and Max respects him. Switching teams right now would mean walking into an unknown situation with zero guarantee of success. Max is smart enough to know that staying and fighting is the better play. What happens next? So let's quickly bring it all together. Red Bull showed up at Silverstone with a heavily modified RB22. New side pods, new rear wing, new direction. Norris himself said Max will stay longer than people think. Max is fighting the FIA not because he's struggling, but because he genuinely loves real racing and refuses to stay quiet when the sport drifts away from it. The Ferrari rumors have no real foundation when you understand how the Verstappens actually think. And the loyalty between Max and Red Bull is built on nearly a decade of history that a few bad races cannot erase. My honest opinion? Max Verstappen is not in his final chapter. He is in his most interesting chapter. A champion being tested, a team being rebuilt, and a driver who cares enough to fight for the soul of the sport. That combination is actually exciting if you look at it the right way. And I want to leave you with one question. If Red Bull comes to Miami with a genuinely fast car, does the whole retirement and Ferrari conversation disappear overnight? Think about that and let me know in the comments. See you in the next one.